Welcome to Built on Faith Homestead or Leaving Egypt, depending on which video platform you're watching this on. My name is Justin. I live with my wife Melissa, and we have 3 kids. We live in a tiny house that you can kind of see over my shoulder back there, and we just do the best we can to serve the Lord and live a self-sustainable life. On this channel, you can expect to find things like raising animals, gardening, hunting, fishing, wild foraging, and all of those kinds of things, wild harvesting, all of that kind of stuff. And I like to talk about current events, how they may relate to biblical prophecy, and things that should just wake us all up as a people, whether you're a Christian or not.
I once was lost, oh, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see.
I'm sure you've already seen in today's title that "In God We Trust" may not mean what you think. So I live in the United States, and so on our currency, we have "In God We Trust" on our currency. And we also have it on our federal, state, and local type buildings and vehicles and all of those kinds of things. And so what I mean by "it may not mean what you think," just because it says "In God We Trust" doesn't necessarily mean it's talking about the biblical God, right? And you say, Justin, why would you say that? That sounds crazy. It says God right on it. Well, as many of you know, many of our nation's leaders have been Freemasons, right? And I'm not going to jump down the Freemason rabbit hole, but one of the things you can find readily available and easy to find, publicly admitted, is in order to be a Freemason, you don't have to believe in the Christian God. You don't have to believe in the God of gods, right? But you do have to believe in a higher being. And anything that you call a higher being is your God. And maybe you have forgotten that even false gods, they're still called gods. Even pagan gods, they're still called gods. And so just because it says "In God We Trust" does not necessarily mean that is a huge victory for Christians. Now, no doubt it gets people thinking, and hopefully most people here in the United States, when they see that, they automatically think of the God of the Bible. That is the hope. But that does not necessarily mean that is the major push behind putting that on things like money, vehicles, and buildings. In fact, if you do a quick study of Washington, D.C. and some of the statues that we have in our federal government, it will not take you long to find out we have all kinds of pagan gods represented there, and our buildings are made after the Roman temples. And so, not just at the federal level, but also at the state level too, in many cases. So it does not necessarily mean what you think it might mean. Also, in order to bring more light to the spiritual nature, because we've made several videos on the things that are going on in this world today, and everything it's a spiritual war. It's a spiritual battle manifesting in the physical. That's what's going on. If you don't understand that, ain't none of this going to make no sense to you. Ain't none of the world going to make sense to you. It is all just going to be, quite frankly, confusion for you. However, if you understand it's all a spiritual battle manifested in the physical, it begins to make it a little easier to understand. And let me give you some examples. If you don't think that it runs very deep, if you just think, well, that's surface level stuff, let me show you what the days of the week mean. Let me show you what our months are named after. Something as basic, something that pretty much rules day-to-day life here in the United States. Right? Monday through Sunday, right? Days of the week. You work, most people or a lot of people, right, work like a Monday through Friday-ish type work, right? You're off Saturday and Sunday, right? All kinds of excitement over those things. Holiday, all that kind of stuff, right? It all revolves around the days of the week. Our months, right? We kind of plan our year out by the months, right? We know what months our birthdays are in and all that kind of stuff, right? Almost all of the months are named after some sort of pagan god. And so the very root of what we do here, and the foundation of kind of what we do in our day-to-day life, is all named after these things. And that goes for those things, and then it goes all the way to the complexity even of like the UN and their prayer room and all of that kind of stuff. It's a very spiritual world that we live in. And if you don't understand that, let me give you just a chain of events, if you will, right? If you don't understand it's a spiritual world that we live in, then it's going to be awful hard to fathom why the world is pushing for the level of control that it is pushing for all around the world on a global scale. It'll be hard to figure out why all that stuff is connected. Do you ever ask yourself why so many different emblems and symbols and all of that all show up all over the place? Do you ever ask yourself why? Well, if you look a lot of those things up, most of the time the reason why is because they are associated with some sort of pagan god. And so, whether you believe it or not, this world is a spiritual world. This world is a world that is getting its basis of everything from some sort of spiritual realm, whether it be good or whether it be bad. And our Bible teaches that everything outside of God, all of the false stuff, all of the false pagan gods and all of the sorcery and witchcraft and all of that stuff is bad. It's evil. It's a sinful thing. And it doesn't teach it's bad and evil to keep you from enjoying this life. It teaches us that to stay away from those things so that we can be free in this life. So, are you willing to pull your head up out of the sand yet? My kids, and I told you guys, right? We got 3 kids. The oldest one's 5. So they're all pretty little, right? And it cracks me up because they all go through a phase where they like hide their face and they'll go, "Where am I? Where am I? Where'd I go?" Right? They think they disappeared just because they close their eyes and they're standing right in front of you, right? They'll play hide and go seek, right? And one of them will stand right in the wide open and just cover their face, right? Like, they can't see me if I do this. But they can. And this is the world that we live in. And I hope and I pray that you're willing to open up your eyes. And whenever you do, and listen, you cannot believe anything and everything that I say, and you cannot believe all of the studying and all of that you want to do. That's fine. But that down in the middle of you that rattles whenever you start reading this stuff and understanding this stuff, that in the middle of you that rattles when you start reading this stuff, understand that stuff that shakes you down in here, it's awful hard to deny that. And I want you to understand that when you see these things and you understand these things, you understand, like, our Bible tells us that this world is going to fall apart. Our Bible tells us that it's going to get more and more evil the closer we get to the return of Christ. Our Bible tells us that there'll be a one world, if you will, governmental type system. Our Bible tells us that witchcraft and sorcery are going to only grow stronger. Our Bible tells us there's going to be great famines and sicknesses and earthquakes and just terrible disasters all around the world. Our Bible tells us this, and it also tells us to lift our head up, because when we see these things, our redemption draws nigh. When we understand it's a spiritual battle, we don't get so attached to the physical things of this world, and in turn really kind of making those things our God, then losing that stuff doesn't seem as detrimental as maybe it once did. You understand that the government, the whoever's, right, the UNs, whatever you want to say, they could decide someday that, you know what, we're going to outlaw private ownership of chickens, because it's not fair that you have a chicken and that your neighbor doesn't. And in an effort to have equality, we're outlawing chickens, and everybody that has chickens is either going to go to jail if they don't kill their chickens or give them to a big farm. If they wanted, I'm not saying they're doing that, but I'm saying if they wanted to, I still haven't lost my freedom, because my freedom doesn't come in a chicken. My freedom comes in God. And that applies to literally everything in this life. The freedom that I feel down in my soul, it is not provided by man. It's provided by the God of the Bible. I'll be very clear, being as the video that we have made. Guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Also, I want to say here quickly, my wife is starting her own channel called Modest Mom, and I will put a link to it also down below. Go check her out. No doubt her videos, her own personal videos, will be a lot better than any of the videos that I make, because she is better at all that stuff than I am. But she is also a full-time mama, and she takes care of our home and homeschools our children. She is very involved in preserving our food and wild foraging and taking care of all kinds of things. She's a very busy woman, so I don't know how often she's going to put out videos, but no doubt her videos will probably be a whole lot better than what you see me doing on here. She'll still be involved in our Built on Faith Homestead videos, all those kinds of things. Don't think we're going to cut her off of here, because we're not going to, right? But she does have some things that she wants to share that she feels like, and I agree with her 100%, and actually have pushed her to do this as well. She feels like making her own channel with some of the things that she wants to share would probably be a better platform, and I agree with her on that. So please check her out over at Modest Mom on YouTube. That's the only place she's at for now, and we will put a link for that down below. As always, I hope you know the Lord. I hope you've been saved and born again. I hope you're depending on the grace of Jesus Christ. I hope that you know the Lord on a personal level, and you are following him with all that you have relentlessly until his return. We appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you next time.